Welcome to the Feminine Alchemy podcast, where we explore the truth about the feminine, the peaceful, the wild, and the visceral. I'm your host, Jaye Anne, joined by my co-hosts, Julie Dean Richards and Kayelee Rose. Each week, we explore the deep mysteries of the feminine and help listeners apply them to their daily lives in a practical way. Join us to unlock the hidden wisdoms your soul has been waiting for. Hello and welcome to another episode of Feminine Alchemy. I am Jaye Anne, and of course we have Julie Dean Richards and Kayelee Rose. Say hi, ladies.
Hello.
This is our 100th episode. Everybody celebrate!
Woohoo!
And we have a very special guest for you today. We have Marie on, who does all of our editing. And say hi, Marie.
Hello. Happy to be here.
Yay! Thank you for being here. It is so exciting to have you on because I don't think everybody notices. You make me sound good. That's what you do. I have so much background noise and you fix it all, and I am so thankful.
Marie makes us all sound good.
She does. I'm sorry.
You guys are awesome.
That's really what my focus was, but like also me. So we're going to have a fun little Q&A with Marie as part of our 100th episode. And we've got some listener questions that we're going to answer. And these are actually really good questions. And some of them are topics we've thought about having whole episodes on. So this is going to be so fantastic. But we have a get to know you question, and we're going to put Marie on the hot spot. So, Julie, what's one thing you want to know about Marie that we don't know?
Well, I think for all the listeners, they would be interested to know your story of being connected to Feminine Alchemy. How did you come to find us? And just so everyone knows, Marie is more than an editor. She keeps track of the schedule. She cuts up little clips for us. She keeps us on task. She is amazing. We're so grateful to have her. So Marie, how did we find you? How did you come to be here?
Honestly, I think it was the inner workings of the universe. Yeah, I feel like Allie is always a good segue of getting to meet people and know people. And I think it was through her that I befriended all of you. And honestly, it just happened at the right time.
What she neglected to tell you was that she let me stay at her house. And while
Yes,
I
that
was
is true too.
there, I slowly convinced her that it would be a great idea for her to become our editor.
No, I offered. I do have a history or a background in social media managing, and this was one aspect of it that I had not been introduced to yet. And so I actually feel like I kind of begged you to let me do it. You were like, I do have a lot going on. I guess I could let you do it.
Well, that is absolutely the inner workings of the universe, because it came at a time when we were all kind of like, I think we need somebody. And then you asked us, which is so perfect.
It did, and it worked out really well. I've thoroughly enjoyed this position. It has been eye-opening, and I can guarantee that I'm listening to the podcast every week.
Possibly more than once per episode.
Exactly, but it's a win-win-win-win.
What has that experience been like for you? I know you said you've enjoyed it, but what has been kind of impactful for you? If it has been impactful, what's the experience like editing all of these things and seeing them all put together? Hopefully not terrible. So many likes and ums and the in-between. What has it been like for you?
It actually has been very impactful. I feel like for so long, I'm one of those people, I think I've explained this to you, Julie, it's like, I know a little bit about a lot of different things. And so having access to this podcast and being able to edit it has been able to give me time to actually think through and dive a little bit deeper into each topic that you discuss during the podcast. So it truly has been a win for me in a lot of ways, because it has actually guaranteed my focus on something.
So good. Okay, so whenever I've edited things, there's always this time where I've watched it so many times that it doesn't have meaning anymore. Does that happen to you, or is it just You're just like, I'm just loving it.
No, honestly, I'm loving it all, and even if I have to go back and re-listen to things, it's always been something that, I've struggled to understand, and having the opportunity to re-listen to it a few times lets it sit in and allows me to sit with it and unravel it in my own life and how I'm thinking it through. You guys had Dave Butler on before I started editing, and that is still probably one of my favorite episodes that I've listened to. And then Jocelyn being a very close second. I've gone back and I've listened to her episodes several times just because there's so much goodness in it and history. And sometimes I get a little riled up and thinking, my gosh, I can't believe this is right in front of us and we still let it happen. But then I take a step back and it's just like all in good time, all in good time. So I've just every episode has been so enlightening and uh, empowering. And I've needed that.
I love hearing this so much.
Mhm.
And I love hearing that about Jocelyn, who's come on, I guess, 3 times now, but she recently texted me about coming on a 4th time, so I always say yes to her because she's the best, so I'm sure that she'll be back.
Awesome. I can't wait.
Yes.
I love this concept of editing as practice. Oh my gosh. Like, this is
Yeah.
really such a powerful thing I never even considered.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, absolutely. And, the episodes where you guys talk about rituals and things like that, this has become a ritual for me, a time where I get to sit with myself and not just edit and listen, but to absorb and to soak
Mhm.
in. And there's so much good, solid knowledge going on this podcast. And I truly hope that so many more gain access to it at the right time for them.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. We're so happy that it's been such a great experience, and we're so glad that our listeners get to meet the face behind what they don't know. Is often while we're chatting on an episode, we'll say something or mess something up, and we'll be like, Marie, if you're listening to this, like, Marie, when you edit this, go back,
Redo, redo,
redo
take
that.
that out.
Yes, and we'll say that, and, the audience doesn't hear it, but we talk about you all the time on the podcast. Even though other people don't get to hear it. I was gonna say, before we get into our listener questions, is there anything else that you wanna share about yourself, your background, or about this opportunity, things about this that you want people to know?
Gosh, I would say that, I think a lot of people started to take that time when life slowed down during the COVID years
The COVID
and
years.
the COVID years, right? We're at that point.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people took that time, myself included, and just started to think about things on, I'm going to say, a deeper and elevated level. Um, and that was very much me. And I think I want to say it was during that time where I really started to think about the meaning of the stars in the universe, if you will. I believe it was during that time where the mega star was supposed to be visible again. And for those listening, the mega star was the star that proclaimed the birth of Jesus Christ. And I remember specifically thinking that if our creator had aligned the stars for a specific moment for one human being, then they did it for all of us. And that just hit me so profoundly. And I wanted to know more. I wanted to know, what did the sky look like when I took my first breath? What did the sky like when my children took their first breath? What does that mean? Because it just made sense that nothing is by chance. And if you look at it that way, then it's easier not to fall into the victimhood of life happens to me and instead life happens for me. And it's been magical ever since, just learning all the things. And I'm, yeah, just ever so grateful. I
That's
don't know if that
beautiful.
answered anything.
No, it was perfect. That's beautiful wisdom. I love it. I love all the wisdom. I love that you sharing that with us. And it's amazing. Marie is a mother to 4 and she has 3 boys, which is like so fun. And a little
I'm in
girl
the fire.
in the fire all the time. But I think it's probably so cool to kind of have this not only for your little girl, but for the boys also, and to hear that like this is really impacting you is amazing. And I'm sure what you said impacts other people. And one last thing I will say about Marie is that she's a great cook because she came to our retreat
Yes, and made
and
it amazing.
yeah, she cooked like a mad woman and she was amazing. It was so much fun. And we just are so grateful to have you. Literally every week we talk about how grateful you are behind your back, how grateful we are about you, about behind your back. So, yes. Go ahead, Kaylee.
Well, I was just going to say, one, hearing from you, Marie, and your experiences, it feels almost humbling and maybe a little awe-inspiring because it's like, oh, wait, yeah. Oh, yeah, the reason we're doing this, like it's actually working. Like it's actually doing what we intended for it to do. And so thank you for providing that validation because sometimes it can feel a little bit like talking into the void when we put the podcast out there because yes, sometimes people will text us, sometimes they'll email us or message us or whatever, but it's largely not a conversation that goes back and forth. And then hearing you say how it's impacted you, it's just super validating. And so thank you for that gift.
Oh, you're welcome. And I hope that you guys hear it more often because you totally deserve those words. And what you are doing does have a pretty miraculous impact. It absolutely does.
All right. So I did have a second thing that I wanted to say. It's actually a question for you, Marie. As you're editing, are there any, like, bloopers that have stood out to you as, like, "This is the best ever. I can't believe that happened."
Oh my gosh. Um, oh wow. I would say probably like again the tarot episode that's going to be released in a few weeks. Just your conversation with Jaye Anne before Julie hops on was really funny. And that was such a difficult episode because like Julie's mic wasn't working the whole time and then I had to re-upload the video and once it did, I'm grateful that we were able to get that done because Julie has so much amazing wisdom for the history of tarot. But yeah, just I love hearing your guys' banter back and forth, and I don't I don't always wanna cut those pieces out because they're just awesome. Yeah, the way that you guys were like, "It'll be a surprise! When she pops on, nobody will know."
We have so much fun recording, we do.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, out of the 3 of us, like, what are our biggest, like, follies that we do? Like, who's the biggest person or things like that? Do we have little quirks that you always have to cut out?
So, Jayan is probably my favorite. Like, she has so many little quippy lines that sometimes, like, she'll say them under her breath, and I'm like, "Oh, I wish that was louder."
Yes, yes.
Jan and Julie, you both, when you get super excited, you talk faster. And I'm like, okay, okay, okay. All right. I can't slow it down. It is what it is, but I can't cut it out. And then I love how Kayelee, she just so thoughtful. And everything that you say, we had that discussion about don't take out all of the pauses because that's how I talk. And I was like, you know what? You're right. You are absolutely right. And those pauses really bring something to the episode because taking those out takes out the reflection that you in real time are getting across. And those are just as important as the words. So, no, like all 3 of you have such fun, unique quirks that I actually enjoy working with.
That's super fun. That's really cool. I guess this is one more, and it's a egotistical question that I want to ask you about, which is what would, now that you've listened to so many episodes and edited so many of them, You talked about each of us and like our quirks. What would you say each of our roles are to you on the podcast?
Each of your roles. Um, I would say Jan is the deconstructor.
Mm,
She wants to know all of the deep, intricate whys and hows, and she wants to know, like, from a feminist standpoint, she's very strong.
mm,
And I greatly admire that because that is an area in life where I find myself as well, is that deconstruction with the intent of rebuilding, you
mhm,
know? But that deconstruction period where it's like, I wanna know why and how we got here, and especially on the backbone of women. And I
mhm,
think that's a message that a lot of women are thirsty and hungry for. Um, I would say that Kaylee Rose, she brings a softer, more, um, introspective
mm,
piece to it, where you truly see that strong feminine coming through and that desire for the balance of everything, the peace. And then Julie, she brings, and all of you are very intellectual, don't get me wrong, but Julie's got the background in law and she's got the background in medicine, and she brings forth that womanly wisdom um, in that area. And
mm.
so Julie brings in the history piece and the research, and that's so fun to listen to. So, like, all 3 combined is just the trifecta of what I think women as a collective are aiming for, if that makes sense.
So sweet.
So
Wow.
sweet.
It
That's
just fills me up, everything you just said. It's so, I don't say that often. I was like, oh, that fills me up. No, this, like, I felt within my body a filling. Thank you. A nourishment with you just
Yeah.
expressing that. Yeah.
Good. All 3 of you, like, honestly, I could not imagine this podcast without any piece.
mm,
And all 3 of you truly make it a whole experience.
I love that so much. And I was gonna say, Marie, you're our hidden fourth. You're the hidden fourth, and in due time, Kaylee will bring forth more information about that, hopefully. But I'll just give an example, because we always talk about maiden mother crone, but we like to talk about maiden mother medicine woman, right? Matriarch. And that hidden fourth element. I think of you, Marie, as you're our hidden fourth element. You're the other piece, our medicine woman, who's there doing all the work for us. So we are so, 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 so grateful for you.
Absolutely. I'm beyond grateful for this. So, thank you.
Well, Marie has volunteered to read some listener questions that are super deep, and we have to get into them really fast. Full disclosure, because they're so deep, like we said, we will not be able to completely answer every single question, and some will likely lead to many episodes on this podcast. So thank you for everyone who gave us your thoughtful time and your questions. It was great to hear from you, and we hope that we can just shed some light. So some of the things we may have to get to a point where we say, well, let's table that, but we will do our best to answer. So do you want to read the first question, Marie?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'll start with one that when I first started on this journey, I was like, my husband's going to think I'm off my rocker. He's going to wonder where Marie went.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who is this person? So, selfishly, I'm going to start with that one. So this listener asks, my partner is not into this stuff as deeply as I am. Have you ever had to navigate being on different pages spiritually than your partner?
Yeah. Can I talk about this? Because this is, we talked about doing a husband episode, which
Mm-hmm.
we still haven't managed to achieve because we talk about it and then we go, we'll do it later.
And
um,
coordinating schedules has been harder for our husbands than it has been for us, which is kind of funny.
Well, yeah, I mean, we have to figure out the management of, among the three of us. I think we have now 15 children. So making sure that all of those kids are handled by someone who's not mom or dad it's just a little tricky. But I think it would be a very valuable experience for not only all of us talking, but also for listeners, because this is a big piece of why people are afraid to go down this path, or why, because, oh my gosh, my thoughts just ran away really fast. or they're afraid that doing this equals separating from their partner. This whole fear of like unequally yoked. Oh, you should be the same. Or you're not good enough for God, or you're always going to grow apart, or you're never going to. All of that stuff, I'm sorry. People can connect in ways that they connect in, and it doesn't have to be in every single aspect. And it's this concept of like, you have to be perfectly aligned in every single chakra. Well, if you do that, you're only facing each other and you have no friends. Like, you have nothing else going on. And that's not real life. So, what I have found though is some of the most consistently spiritual, strong human beings have a partner who is the exact opposite spiritually. And it's because they ground them in reality. I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I need a little bit of that, right? My husband is he's not into this woo-woo stuff. He holds space for it. He's good with it. He's like, okay. And sometimes he'll go, okay, this sounds like something you want or like would go down a path of. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of cool. I'm like, no, or no, I did that 5 years ago. I'm good.
He's just catching up.
And he's like, is this you? And I'm like, oh yeah, okay. But that's the extent. And as long as the other person is open to you, I think the problem comes in when they think that, again, we have to be the same and we have to have the exact same beliefs and the exact same interpretation of specific texts, which we've already debunked on this podcast, right? Because the texts have been translated and retranslated all this time. There's no way there's a single way to interpret it and live your life with it. So why are we going to make a very specific thing be like the only reason you can be together? It seems like too much pressure on a single thread. But yeah, that's the big thing, is as long as the other person is okay with what you're doing, or at least trusting you to be you, trusting you that you're not crazy, trusting you that you're a divinely inspired, intelligent human being. Like, give me my autonomy and trust that my autonomy is not trying to drive us into hell, and we'll be okay. That's the biggest piece. And it's the control issue that is usually the problem inside these kinds of marriages. And I've seen this happen where the woman's the woo-woo person and the man's like, that's the one we think of as the trope. I've seen it the other way. I've seen men who are very woo-woo, and the woman's like, I cannot with whatever you're doing, but good luck with that. Have fun. So yeah, but I just really think that it's a good balance, because when you start believing your own hype inside your actual marriage, then you guys can both go down a really weird path. It's when I'm gonna really make some people angry. I know a lot of hippies. The reason we have this weird new age spirituality hippie trope is because a lot of people got together and believed their own hype and didn't ground it in anything. Right? And so when we have these culty things happen, when we have these weird little, like, what are you doing things and not like in a you're weird, don't do that, but in a, did you ground this in? What is this grounded into? It usually happens because a lot of people just believed on the basis of belief and not on the basis of, does this feel right in my body? Does this feel right in your body? And when one person is just kind of blind to it, it helps go, okay, I don't see what you're seeing, and I trust you that you're doing stuff, but this stuff over here is also important. Like, the hippies are famous for not liking money, right? When you are in that power of, well, there's also importance in having a job. There's also importance in investing and all of those currently normal day-to-day life things. Or there's also normalcy in, wearing pants, right? We're gonna do that.
Wait, what? That's a rule?
In public, I'm sorry, in public.
Oh, okay.
So I always like to say, if you want to piss a bunch of hippies off, give them a contract and make them like accountable. And if that is your problem, then you're not grounded enough, right? And one of those great ways of staying grounded is having a partner who's like, I don't know what you're doing. I'm focused on this other stuff over here that you have no idea is going on either, and you're not focused on that. So it's a good balance. It's a good mix. So yeah, that's my long-winded answer to that.
Awesome.
How does anybody else deal with it? I just like took the whole thing over.
No, I think that's great because I was about to be like, we could probably move on from this question, but also I'm sure Kayelee and I both could say many things about it. The one thing I'll add is like give it time. It takes time and it takes small steps of trust with that person for them to see the outcome. Sometimes spouses need to see the outcome first. Like, don't get offended if they want to, quote unquote, like investigate or see what's going on or ask more questions, or, if they don't. But I think it's about them understanding the outcome of you, the happiness that you have, the way that you change in good ways, that they'll be able to understand it. And sometimes, change is hard. So that's why I'm saying give it time, because
Yeah.
they might just need a second to be able to understand and feel the change. Do you want to say anything else, Kayelee?
Well, yeah, this is one that I'm like, especially as Jaye Anne was talking and all these things popped into my head of like my own lived experience. I'm like, okay, this one could easily be an episode plus some. But the thing that I want to say right now is that focusing on the friendship that you have, fostering the friendship that you have with your spouse, with your partner, can go a very long way for being able to navigate when you're on different pages spiritually, or when one of you is investigating something that the other's like, what? What is this? Because actually, frequently in my marriage, it's been my husband who's gone deeper into the woo woo before me. And I've been like, what the heck is going on? And he's way better at holding space for me when I go deep than I have been in the past for him. And it's starting to shift. I'm starting to learn how to hold space for him better. But just know, like, if you focus on that friendship piece, and if you're able to like separate yourself a little bit from this idea of like, oh my gosh, they're going to ruin my life because they're not the person that they used to be. No, the person you marry or commit to long term is not going to stay the same. They're just not, and you're not going to, and that's okay. But really leaning into the friendship component of things helps make that feel less like a high stakes risk.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that so much.
That's so
Thank
good.
you, all of you. Anyway, go ahead, Marie.
Each piece perfect. I think that this is a really good one. This listener asks, femininity today is often reduced to an aesthetic. I talk about femininity and people think I mean painting fingernails and wearing lipstick. Can we talk about the difference between femininity as an aesthetic and femininity as true femininity?
Um, it's about being your whole self as much as possible. And femininity isn't like a thing in a box that you pull out every so often and it's like, this is my femininity part. It's as written in as, our neurology and our DNA. It's not like a piece of us, and recognizing that, yeah, there's femininity everywhere, and a lot of parts of us that we thought were bad or wrong and evil are feminine, and a lot of parts of us that we thought were masculine are just things that are feminine that we've been using in a masculine way, and really integrating all of it. But I'm trying not to talk too much, so.
No, you're doing great, Jan. Yeah, I was going to say exactly. It like femininity has nothing to do with your aesthetic. You can have a quote unquote very masculine aesthetic and be a very feminine person. It's not about what color you want to paint your nails or if you want to paint them at all. It's not about what kind of clothes you want to wear. It's not about any of those things. Femininity is about our personal polarity, the ebb and the flow inside of us. So episode 1 addresses this very well, I think, But again, it's always great to have this refresher of the feminine is about receptivity. So, like receiving, bringing things into yourself, creativity, becoming. In the light and shadow part, femininity is actually the shadow piece. It is the darker side of things. It is the side that is okay letting things be, waiting and creating and gestating. Like those are all the pieces of the feminine. It's the part of you that is willing to be supported and is willing to, let others give to you, which is a big deal. And of course, it's also that deep part of us of where our magic lies and our creative piece that comes out of us. And that's something huge about the feminine, is that if you give it something, it will give you something greater back. It will create something even more. And we can see this. I'm always going to talk about symbols, but if you want to learn more about femininity, look at feminine symbols, right? Look at bees, look at the moon, look at trees. It's communal. Look at the ocean, the water. That will teach you all you need to know about femininity. Go ahead, Kayelee. I know you have a lot.
Yeah. Well, I love that you said femininity is not about an aesthetic,
Mhm,
because I almost never paint my nails and I hate lipstick. And I
mhm,
doubt people listening who've listened for very long would say that I'm not feminine.
mhm.
Because if they do, they don't understand. But
Yes.
a lot of the things that we think of as feminine, as an aesthetic, are actually stemming from capitalism and from capitalizing on the male gaze and women being purely in existence to please somebody else's viewership.
Mhm,
Just divorce yourself from the idea of it has to be an aesthetic. In fact, it shouldn't be an aesthetic. It should be this natural outpouring of who you are showing up in your aesthetic that has no rules or mandates based on, oh, this is masculine, oh, this is feminine, whatever. And feminine energy, the part that sometimes we miss is it's the void, it's the unknown,
mhm,
it's the space, it's the womb, it's the darkness of gestation, and we don't really know for sure what's happening yet. And you can't really put that into an aesthetic. You
mhm,
can't.
mhm,
More than anything, usually the experience, the shell experience, is going to be driven by the amount of expression. And that, I think, shines through even better than any cookie cutter aesthetic that we've been taught to say is feminine.
mhm.
Um, so many great questions.
So many great questions.
Amazing questions, actually. Okay. What do you say to a woman who hates being a woman? Hates her periods, hates having a feminine body, struggles with feminine body challenges, and just struggles to see the positive in being a woman?
I'm gonna probably say something that might piss some people off when I answer this question. So just FYI before. But when we use those words like, I hate my period, I hate my body, I hate, I struggle with these things. To me, that's huge clues that there's a lot of shadow that you have not worked out yet. And that there's a lot of wounding and for like forgiveness that you have not given yourself, and pieces of yourself that you have still not uncovered. And that there's a lot of cultural programming, if I'm honest. A lot of times our, oh, like I hate being a woman is literally based on the cultural programming that we have around what does it mean to be a woman, our cultural programming that everyone's told us for years. Periods suck, they're the worst, everything is the worst when you're a woman, you can't have this, you can't have that, you can't do this, but that, this is holding you back, that's going to hold you back. So I would say the first thing is we have to deprogram some of those things. We have to look at it for what it is. We also need to look at what are the shadow pieces that I'm missing here. Like, what are the things? What is it that ticks me off about being a woman so much? What is that piece? What is the real thing that's making you angry? Because the real thing that's making you angry actually isn't your body, and it isn't the fact that you're a woman. It isn't those things. It's something deeper inside yourself. And we need to get to the root of the issue first. And again, I talk about this also with women giving birth. When we talk about giving birth and it has to be so painful and everything's so painful, listen, I just had a baby, okay? I know that giving birth is uncomfortable. I've been there, we've done that, right? But I do think that and believe our greater collective consciousness really does cause women to have more difficulty and pain giving birth and having periods because of the cultural programming that we've had for thousands of years, that childbirth is quote unquote supposed to be painful and having a period is supposed to be painful, and that it's your curse, and you're cursed to have these painful things. So I'm not saying that it's all in your head or anything like that, that like pain, that periods are inconvenient, because yeah, they are inconvenient because of the world we live in. The culture that we live in makes having a period inconvenient, and that's just the truth of life. But that is not why you might hate yourself, like why you hate being a woman. Really, there's something deeper below that, and as we get away from those things, we can start to then rebuild ourselves and understand the beauty and pieces that we may be missing in these areas.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Julie just said. When you asked that question, Marie, the very first thing that popped into my mind was, who taught you that being a woman was bad? And so anyone who's in that position of like hating being a woman, hating their period, really asking themselves, who taught me that having a period was was bad or problematic? Who taught me that being a woman was bad? Who taught me these things, or how did I learn these things? And you might be surprised what comes up, what was modeled for you by your mother or your father or some other mother or father figure in your life, or a sibling or friends or society at large. And then next, the question is, what definitions am I using for womanhood, for femininity? Like we just talked about feminine aesthetic. Like what definitions have I been operating with? And are those definitions I want to keep? Are they helping me? Or do I want to change those definitions to something else? Because the crazy thing about language is that language is actually, I would say, a masculine thing, that feminine energy cannot be put into words, not fully. So adjusting definitions, even if somebody might argue like you're using a definition that's not real. Like, is it real in your body? Is it real in your experience? And can you find words that match that? And if you can't, that's okay. But that's information for you to know, like, oh, I've been operating with a definition that doesn't actually align with reality for me. So, yes, I love words. I love them so, so much. And they need to be questioned. Their definitions need to be sat with, especially around things like this.
Another thing, just a little cherry on top of this. Everything you guys said is so great. And also remember that your soul's inner callings are only going to be strengthened by shadow work, and the things that are not for you are going to fall away while you do shadow work. And shadow work is really like the core of identity work. So there's going to be a time frame when you do all this that it's like, I don't know who I am, I don't know what I am, all of that. Beautiful. Sit with that. Keep sitting with it. Keep working with it, and there will be an other side where you start to feel clarity around what it is that you do want and what it is that needs to change in your life to make it a little bit more you. At the end of the day, that's all we want. Yeah.
Awesome. This question, I think you could probably do an entire episode on, but I think they really want to know how you balance your relationship with Christ and your research into his practices and magic or witchery or all of the non-mainstream topics that we all love hearing about on your podcast.
Well, I think we can just say a couple words about this from our different perspectives, also, I think, which are really important along this path, because we have lots of listeners who are Christian. We have lots of listeners who are mystics. We have both. We have all the things. And we have tried very hard to straddle that line so that no one belief system feels out of balance as much as we can. Speaking to people who have a relationship to Christ, I would say there's a lot of history There is a lot of history before we get to what we now see as typical Christianity. And in that history, we find many, many, many things, including magic and folk magic and practices that now people would be scared of, which were proclaimed as Christian for thousands of years before they were disenfranchised and put as evil. And so I will say that, and that is just a true thing, and people can do with that what they will, and we'll continue. We've talked to Jocelyn about this and Dave Butler a little bit. We'll continue to unravel that story for you here. But I would say you are the only person who gets to define your relationship with Christ. You are the person. You get to define it. You get to talk to them. If you see Christ as a mystic person or entity or guide, that is perfectly okay. You can literally go talk to Jesus, your conception of what Jesus is, and see what he says about himself and all of those pieces, because that's going to be the best source. But this is a very painful topic for many people, and I think each of us included. In many times it's been a painful topic. It's a painful thing to straddle, because we're in a world that, to quote a scripture, be hot or cold or I'll spit you out of my mouth. It is hard to be in this area where you're accepting of multiple things at the same time, and where you're accepting of multiple truths at the same time. And for those listening who are straddling this, just know we're there with you, and that you have strength here. We love you, and that it's going to be okay. No matter the outcome, ultimately, everything will be okay. And it's okay to be in the middle. Like, it is okay to not know and to go through years of not knowing. And I think Jaye Anne can probably speak to this very well from her perspective as well. But just know you're going to have a million iterations of your belief system, and that's a good thing. It's okay, no matter where you wind up.
Yeah, my little succinct piece here, because like it was interesting because we all had a very strong pause before answering, and it was not because we didn't know what to say. It was because, how do we even begin with this conversation? And what I will say is, the question that always comes up is rooted in this specific perception of Christ, who he was and how he lived. And that is what is rewritten as you do more actual research and do more actual interaction. So I had to, I call it, terse out the culture and the reality of Jesus, and go back to things he actually said and reread them with new eyes and all of that, right? And that's the person that sometimes I will associate with, and that's the piece. It's not, there was this what would Jesus do thing that is a double-edged sword there, because it's like, oh, would you behave in a loving way in this situation? Maybe I should behave in a loving way. But the other thing is, when that was invoked, was, you have this guy here judging you every second of every day. And I don't think that's what Christ was about. And so I have an aversion to other people saying Jesus Christ in that way. I have a reaction to other people because I don't know what they're really intending by saying this. I don't know what the meaning is behind those words, because I had to rewrite that word for me. And that's what's, again, what Julie says, can be personal for everybody.
Yeah, I felt the energy shift, for me at least, probably for everybody, when that question was asked, because it's a big question and a deep question. And for me, I think a lot of people have this question because there's this, what I think of as a false dichotomy of, you can be religious or you can be spiritual, and you can't be both. And I remember as a teenager, people talking about like, oh, who's more religious and who's more spiritual and blah, blah, blah. And somebody saying that I was very religious, that I would be in the religious camp. And I remember thinking like, wait, what? Why do we have to choose? And yes, at that point in my life, I was much more letter of the law. I was not nearly so nuanced as I am now. And now I'm in this space of like, okay, my relationship with my higher power, that I happen to call God and Goddess and Jesus Christ. And I sometimes wonder if there's a fourth in there, because I really do feel like Trinities almost always have a hidden fourth. And I take everything through my relationship to them. And so somebody outside of me says, oh, you're not truly enlightened because you're still in a religious tradition to one extent or another. And somebody else might say, oh, you have gone off the deep end. You've been led astray because you are doing these things that are not orthodox. And I say, you're both full of it. You don't know what you're talking about, because it's between me and my Heavenly Father, my Heavenly Mother, and Jesus Christ. And I think that's ultimately how it's going to have to be for everybody, because I am the only steward of my life. You are the only steward of your life. Julie's the only steward of hers. Jaye Anne's the only steward of hers. Marie's the only steward of hers. We're the only people accountable for our own lives. And so it doesn't matter what anybody else is telling us. What matters is how it feels for us, how we're holding ourselves accountable to our own values, and what our relationship is, our personal relationship with whatever we term our higher power. And if you happen to be in the camp of not having a higher power at all, then I guess you answer only to yourself.
So much wisdom. I love it. Thank you. On a similar note, can we talk about the difference between feminine intuition, fear, big feelings, and wishful thinking?
Yes.
That's a good one.
I'm just going to shortcut say it's all shadow work. The answer is shadow work. The answer is
Done.
the answer is infinity. Shadow work. But yeah, go ahead, Julie.
I don't have to go first.
I have an immediate thought. I have a tendency to wait and feel things out and like let other people talk first, but I've got something. So, in my experience and in watching clients, especially recently, the way to tell is, are you centered? Are you grounded? If you just stop, like, do you feel regulated? Do you feel fully present? If yes, and you're still getting whatever insight, then chances are it's intuition and it's not anxiety and it's not just your head and it's not big feelings. If you are activated and can't get centered, can't get to a space of like, I'm okay if that's real and I'm okay if that's not real, then it takes some sitting with and some shadow work, like Jaye Anne said.
Well, and somatic work. I mean, that's why the work that Kayelee does is so important. We've had episodes where we talk a little bit about somatic work, but we will have more of them. I've just decided, but I think it's on the sheet already to have more of them. So to help you get grounded, that's why having some tools, some nervous system regulation tools are really important. And if you are in a place where, like Kayelee said, you're really, really activated, then having a couple tools like humming and rocking, that is really helpful before you make a decision. Breathing and breath, just, talking about that physiological sigh, which is 2 breaths in, 1 breath out. Just doing a few of those and seeing if you can get centered, or imagining roots coming out of your feet, planting into the earth. Just getting a second, and then you feel overwhelmed still, then, you need to sit with it. But those are some tools to kind of help you re-get grounded and see if you're still feeling what you're feeling. And I will give just a quick experience about this, because I just went through an experience of not listening to my intuition and how that turned out for me, because this is very important. And we are looking for a house right now. We're growing a business. We're trying to do a lot of things. And so we kind of need more space, more walls, even though we've loved our outdoor lifestyle. So there was a tiny house that we were looking at, which on first glance and on paper was like, oh, it's perfect. It's on 5 acres. It's going to be so private. It's not that much bigger. There's room for all these things. And I felt really strongly when we were talking about, okay, should we sign the contract? Should we do this thing? Should we decide? I felt kind of backed into a corner. So if you ever feel backed into a corner, that's a big signal, okay, to be very careful. Not that my husband was doing that to me at all. There wasn't really anyone pressuring me except me, because we had been looking for so long. That's why I felt backed into a corner, because I was exhausted. So another thing, think about, how exhausted are you? Are you in desperation mode? And I've said this before and I'll say it again. If you're in desperation mode, you will push everything away from you. You will not get the right pings. And so you've got to get yourself again grounded. And for me, I felt like that desperation. We need a house. Like, this is good. It's in our range. All these things on paper, it's perfect. But I just had this feeling like my heart started beating really fast. I just felt nervous. My stomach dropped about it, but I kept talking myself into it and talking myself into it. And we did sign the contract and we did move into the house. Immediately after moving into the house, all of us got incredibly sick. There were so many things that the house was infested with, like all these things. It was so gross. I mean, it wasn't the grossest, but anyway, there was just a lot of bugs. I mean, it's Florida, there's going to be a lot of bugs, but there were just like a lot of bugs. There were a lot of things that we had not thought about. For example, carrying a baby in one arm as you're climbing up into a loft. At the time, we were like, oh, this loft space is such a good way to use your space, like the vertical space in this room. And then it was like, this is the worst thing ever as I'm like trying to crawl up the stairs with my tiny baby, 6 weeks postpartum. Dumb, 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 super dumb. And then, we had the neighbors, and then like we could not get better. And I was like, I think there might be mold in this house. I did a check, mold came back positive. Anyway, we were able to get out of the tiny house. So that is good. We were able to reverse directions. But my intuition told me, right? My intuition told me beforehand, and I did the wrong things. So if you're thinking about this, think about what situation you are in. Do you feel backed into a corner? Do you feel a lot of pressure? Do you feel desperate? Are you just anxious for anxious sake, and just finding a space and saying, I need time to really ground myself before I do that. And I did do a little bit of that, and I did do just a little spiritual session myself, some meditation. And what I kept seeing was, there are two paths that are converging, and you can choose either path that you want. You're going to the same place, whether you go into the tiny home or not. But if you go into this tiny home, you will not live there for very long. And guess what? Even though I knew we would not live there for very long, it ended up being like a little more than 2 weeks. Okay. Um, I like in my head, I talked myself into, well, not very long could be good. It could be 6 months. That would be good, In my brain started making this stuff up, you guys. So just take that as an example of if you feel like you're pushing yourself and you're talking yourself into it and you're talking yourself into it, you need to reground and re-listen to your intuition.
Thank you for sharing that story, Julie, because that's so important. Like we've got to learn from our mistakes and not just be like, yeah, we did it right every single time. And who says you did it wrong, honestly? It's just part of the experience. And as an aside, for those of you listening, if you are wondering, like, oh, how do I get centered? Look at the sign that cusps your IC. So the sign that cusps your Kayelee, the bottom of your chart. That can give you a clue of how your personal energy is more likely to get centered. And especially look at the element of that sign.
Love that. What is the number one modern challenge that undermines females' attempts to step back into the feminine?
Nobody's gonna like my answer.
Those are usually the best ones, Jaye Anne.
I know. It depends on what you mean by modern, because I would just say capitalism and patriarchy, but maybe we should just make it a little bit more specific.
Hey, Jan, I'm on the boat with you.
Yeah, I think when Jaye Anne says, well, you can correct me, Jaye Anne, but Kayelee often says it this way: power over paradigm is a good way to say it. Power over paradigm.
Because
Go ahead,
patriarchy means so many different things to so many different people. It's imprecise. Language, even though it is more precise, it's also less precise. But the power over paradigm, situations where it's like somebody's going to have power over somebody else and they're going to try to get them to deny their own personal knowing, their own personal knowledge. That's essentially what colonialism is. And so any situation where you're outsourcing your power and your own knowing is what's keeping you in this modern day and age from really stepping into your feminine. And you can be outsourcing that to doctors. You can be outsourcing that to friends. You can be outsourcing that to your husband or partner. You can be outsourcing it to just about anything, honestly. But yeah, the power over paradigm is the culprit. Down with the power over paradigm.
And I would say also, and I guess this has to do with power over paradigm, but to be even more specific, it's the kind of what we dealt with in the other question in many, many ways is we've created this culture where femininity is not cool and it's evil. And just to be like so blunt about it, in a number of ways, right? In a number of ways, because even the feminist revolution, in many ways hurt a lot of women. It didn't do all of its intended purposes. Were some things good? Yes, some things were good. And also, there were a lot of women who ended up getting hurt from that because of the way we were literally trying to form ourselves to the power over paradigm. Like we were trying to form into that. And so I have a lot of friends who think that they are like, quote unquote, fighting the patriarchy by being the top dog, you know, I'm the top dog now and I'm great and I'm up here and I'm, you know, conforming to the standards of this power over paradigm, conforming to the standards of the patriarchy in that way. And this is where a lot of that hate for being a woman comes from, because we imagine the feminine as powerless and small and helpless and you do what everybody else says. And that's not what it is at all. And so this culture revolving around that is really hurting us. And it comes from both sides of things.
It's almost like it just adds to the chaos that is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and it messes with your hormones.
Yes.
There's
Yes,
that.
that too.
Just like, look, do you want to dump all your adrenals? Try to fight the patriarchy by playing their game. That doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You have to step outside of the system and is in whatever ways you can manage. And we've talked about that, like the sustainability episode talks about that quite a bit. Just stepping out, recognizing that the rules that exist, like, okay, yes, there's reality. There's the fact that the world is set up a certain way. And there's the fact that a lot of the rules that we're playing by are purely in existence because everyone decided that they were going to play by them. And if you opt out in whatever way you can, whatever way you can sustain without completely upending your life and descending into chaos, like that is going to go a long way. Not just for you, but collectively it will start shifting the dynamic for everybody.
And the new technology we need to bring in is community.
Yes.
With like real life people.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's too easy to say, oh, I'm going to take my power back. I'll do it myself. Well, now you've created the same problem because now you're just dumping adrenaline into doing literally everything all by yourself. And that's not sustainable either. Humans are social creatures. We are meant to live in community. So yeah, it's about finding that community that feels supportive for everyone and then supporting that community.
And recognizing that in community, there's gonna be friction. There's gonna be some upheaval. Like, you're gonna get annoyed by people. They're gonna get triggered by you. Like, and regaining those skills of interpersonal relationships that in some ways we've really lost.
So this great reel that was like this dinner party this person had. And as they're setting it up and everything, the words at the bottom are basically saying, we did this dinner party, all these people showed up, and people are like, I wish I had a community like that. There's nothing like that around here, blah, blah, blah. And the response was still, while they're like showing them how they set it up and everything, the response to this was, yeah, so and so didn't want to do this and they showed up anyways. So and so had, a family problem. They showed up anyways. Is this a discomfort? Is part of the community aspect. And honestly, that's a big part of shadow work too, is being able to hold space for yourself and the other person that's triggering you while being triggered. That's important. And we can't be like, oh, shadow work is me sitting in a room by myself. No, part of shadow work is being triggered by other people. And instead of unsubscribing, you work with it and you talk to them.
I love that you said instead of unsubscribing, that because that's what it is.
I unsubscribe from your triggeriness. Well, baby.
No, absolutely. That was perfect. Okay. I want to book a session with you ladies. I feel like I have just so much I want to talk about and hear your perspective.
Like with all three of us, this was the biggest question I had about this question. Do you want a 3-person session? Maybe we should start doing this.
That would be kind of cool.
It's so funny because we've talked about this. We've like danced around this with ideas for so long, so many times. So many of the times we've been like, we're going to do the thing and we'll make a thing that we do. And then we're like, we can't do the thing and make a thing that we do. Oh, wait, we need to do a thing. But I guess currently we all do this separately, and maybe one day we will make a try session, which would be fun, which you'd probably have to book 3 different days for. It'd be like 3 different
Yeah.
sessions in one. That would be kind of cool.
Because coordinating our schedules beyond just getting together for the podcast once a week would probably be really hard, especially adding a fourth person who's doing a session with us.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Will you eventually get back to doing retreats?
Yes.
We've
Yes.
thought about doing a Feminine Alchemy retreat.
Yes.
Yes.
And
Deeply
we're like,
considered it.
Virginia, Florida, Idaho, where do we go? I don't know.
Texas?
All of the places. Texas, yeah. Yeah, honestly, like, I would have loved to have done a retreat this year, but then life just kept being like, "No, Kayelee, knock it off. Like, slow the heck down. Quit trying to run so
Babies.
fast."
Help.
People will still be around. People will still want to do retreats next year or even the year after. It's okay to recover. It's okay for Julie to have a new baby. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. But yes. Yes, absolutely. Love retreats.
We do. We love
Awesome.
doing them. And can I sneak peek them, Kayelee? Am I allowed to sneak peek them? Maybe. Maybe I could use a maybe.
Yeah, go for it.
There might, maybe, wink, wink, be something happening in November. Wink, wink. There you go.
But it would be online, not in person, unfortunately.
Yeah, it would be online, but more people can participate that way, which would be so fun. And I don't know, maybe if we get our crap together, we will have a retreat sooner rather than later. We'll have to plan. I'm like thinking spring equinox, ladies. I'm just putting that out there. Next year, spring
Be fun.
equinox could be fun.
Honestly, if my husband had his way, we'd be having a retreat in September so that he could see Moth.
Yeah, true. True.
Awesome. Okay, well, I hate to cut the questions off because, like I said, there are so many great questions. But I wanted to end on this one. Let me see. Okay, what is the number one? I know it's hard to break it down. Choose just one. What is the number one feminine principle that has most transformed your life? And how can we as listeners apply that this week?
I'm just going to answer this question first because I would say that presence is a big deal. Being fully present as much as you can be, especially with your own body and the sensations that you're feeling internally and externally. Like that has been the biggest life changer for me. I mean, I was already deeply in feminine masculine polarity work before I did several somatic certifications, but really sitting with that presence in my own body and recognizing like, oh, there are uncomfortable feelings coming up and I actually don't have to do anything about it. I just need to be here with them. That has changed so much for me in a very, very short period of time. I'm a completely different person from 3 years ago in ways that maybe people can't see as much from the outside, but I can see definitely from the inside.
Yeah, that's true. I would say curiosity, like aggressive curiosity, like super aggressive curiosity. And the word curious, let's get curious about that. I get to get curious about this, which is excellent and wonderful. Do not start to feel guilty about not being curious enough, first of all, but step into that space of, I don't know everything. This piece right here is a belief that has served me for a long time. Why is that? And where is it not successful? And instead of holding certain things like quote sacred, like belief systems as quote sacred, where I can't touch them because like what's the fear? Ask that question. Like that's the curiosity, is understanding where is it not serving me and why am I holding on to it even though there's pieces of it that are not serving me? And just that aggressive curiosity and going, I don't need this. Goodbye. I do not need this belief system that says whatever it is. Like I'm fat, I'm ugly, I'm weird, and whatever these lies are. Or I can't do this because why? Ask why, ask why, ask why. And only ask why of yourself. When you pull out the word why, you're like drawing your sword at somebody's throat and demanding an answer. So don't do that to other people. But gently, kindly, and sweetly do it to yourself and say, why do I hold this thing on a pedestal? And how do I let go of it? Because that's another question.
So it's curiosity that's aggressive and it's continuing. It's just going to keep happening, but it's gentle in how it's directed at the self.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to clarify that for people because you're like aggressive and soft. And I was like, I know exactly what she's saying, but let's make sure everybody else does.
That's what Leo's for, right? Just soft, warm, and aggressive.
Yes. I just pictured a very persistent kitten. Like, yeah, images flying into my mind now.
Those are good images because I did not bring any imagery here. That's great. A very persistent kitten. It's great.
I think both of those are really great. So I don't know that I can add as much except that I know you asked like how can these be applied this week? And so I'm going to do a little bit of a bringing those together and I'm going to say ritual for mine. Surprise. Surprise, surprise that I would say ritual. But I would say take both of those pieces, your sensations, your presence, your sensuality, and your curiosity, and this week create a simple ritual for yourself where you can have both of those present and you can really feel out. And perhaps, because this was going to be my real first answer, do some shadow work with yourself during that time. So that's what I'd say to wrap it up.
Awesome. I do have two more quick questions. I promise they're quick. They're two that I thought of during that last one, so I apologize for lying.
I'm sorry for lying.
So, from my curiosity, out of these 100 grand episodes, what has been your favorite interview that you've done?
I mean, Dave Butler's interview is still one of my absolute favorites. I've only actually conducted one interview myself, or that's going to be changing. And that was with Seidel Schultz, and that was so much fun. But I want to hear from Jaye Anne and Julie, like favorite interview from this podcast.
I mean, yeah, David Butler was fun. I did enjoy interviewing Amy Duggar King. She's such a bubbly and warm person, even though she's like mildly famous. And so that was really cool to see. Like, it started to rework how I see famous people or how I might interact with someone who's famous as a normal people. They have a phone like me, they have kids like me. And it was just very interesting because she brought her whole self to that, and that was kind of cool.
Yeah, there are so many good interviews. It's really hard to top Dave's. I love anytime I get to talk to Jocelyn, it's a great time.
Yeah.
I love chatting with Jocelyn because we can just like get into it and hit it hard. But I'm also going to talk about someone who's coming back on the podcast who I deeply love, which is Stella
I
Porta.
knew you were going to say Stella.
Yeah,
Yay!
Stella. That interview was transcendent. It was just if you haven't listened to it, it's about dreams and dreaming and dream work and how do you get into that. And man, Stella, she's a goddess. She's coming back to talk to us a lot about the history piece that we've been hinting at and talking about where the goddess was before and how she has been integrated into masculine systems and everything like that. So I am stoked to have her back and to tease that. But literally, everyone we have interviewed, so many people that we have interviewed when they were smaller are now giant, which just have to say that. Like Stella, when I found her, okay, just saying this, she had less than 4,000 followers when I found her. And she's now, hundreds of thousands of followers and doing her thing. And same thing with like Kale Blossom. They were like at 20K and now they're hundreds of thousands in. So come on our podcast and afterwards you will have hundreds of thousands of followers.
It's like magic.
Yes, it happens. So that's been so fun to see the progression. Primal Priestess is like that too. So anyway, seeing the pattern there for anybody who wants to come on the podcast. There you go.
Awesome. And then a follow-up question. For newcomers to your podcast who have all of the questions, where is a good starting point?
Yeah,
I
we
mean, can we
did a
say
series.
episode 1?
Yeah, well, we did a series over the summer. I did a replay series last year, and where I put kind of our big episodes, our 5 or 6 biggest episodes, most
Yeah.
foundational episodes, cleaned them up for you. They're in the 60s. I think the first one starts at number 66. It's called Feminine Rising. So go back to the 60s, go back to last summer and listen to that podcast series so it will take you through all the most important feminine principles, shadow work, what is the feminine, working with those things. And then we also did, what is that called? Uh,
Astrology Unlocked.
yes, we did Astrology Unlocked. Yes, we did 5 or 6 episodes that will teach you astrology from beginning. They are basically a course. So listen to them if you want to learn those things. But there you go. If you're starting from the beginning, Astrology Unlocked, and then go back to that, I think it's number 66, Feminine Rising. And from there, you'll get our replay series that we did, and that will help you catch right on up.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think that's it.
All right. This has been so much fun. I'm so glad. I mean, I think we all kind of forgot that we were coming up on our 100th episode until Marie, you messaged us in our group chat and we're like, "You're coming up on your 100th episode. What are you going to do?" And we're like, we're going to talk because we talk. I don't know. What are we going to do?" And so this episode is largely due to you, Marie. So thank you. It's been so fun. It's been valuable to hear from you and your perspective, to hear questions from our audience, from our listenership, and to reflect on just the impact of the podcast and then the impact of us as individuals. It's been fun.
Yes, thank you so, so much. And I do have to put a plug if people are listening. This is technically our 113th episode because of
Ooh,
all
counting
our
bonus
bonus
episodes.
episodes.
Yes.
Yes, so what a great feminine number to end on. 13. Beautiful. We love it. And thanks for everybody who is listening. Thank you so much, Marie, for joining us. And we will see you next week. Feminine Alchemy out.